The 1990 film Quest for the Mighty Sword has recently received a great deal of negative attention from critics who just can't seem to understand it as a work of art. It was one of the first films I thought really deserved a thorough literary analysis on this show, but because of all the attention it had received, I figured I'd better not make it my first episode. Now that I've gotten started, it's time for Quest for the Mighty Sword. Quest for the Mighty Sword is the third and a half installment in Joe D'Amato's Ator cycle, a film series that first gained widespread recognition in North America in 1991, thanks to its inclusion in the acclaimed lecture series of Robinson, Robot, and Servo. The film's troubled history has been dealt with by other critics, and its status as an adaptation of Wagner's Ring of the Nibelungs is obvious enough that I don't believe it requires further discussion here. Instead, I will focus on how D'Amato uses the Wagnerian story as the backdrop for a Freudian manifesto, a coming-of-age tale in which a young man, to reach adulthood, must overcome his Oedipus complex. D'Amato clearly knows that he is venturing into risky territory here, for he quickly eliminates young Prince Ator's real parents in favor of substitutes. The substitute mother figure is the Amazon Deianira, who attempts to defend Ator's father while his real mother does nothing. Her advice goes unheeded, and Ator's father is killed. Ator himself is then given into the keeping of the substitute father figure, Grendel the Troll. Grendel immediately expresses sexual interest in Ator's mother. She rebuffs him, so he drugs and rapes her. Here, the basic Oedipal conflict is established. Ator grows up seeing Grendel not as a nurturing caregiver, but only as an individual who has done sexual violence to his mother, denying young Ator his own masculinity in the form of the titular mighty sword. Instead, he offers only frauds and shadows of it, mocking young Ator's attempts to assert himself. Another shadow haunts Ator during his adolescence. Visions of Deianira, who has been in an ageless sleep since he was a small boy. His two major goals at this point in his life are the death of Grendel and the sexual conquest of Deianira. The filmmakers could hardly make Ator's Oedipus complex clearer than that. At last, Ator comes to understand that he cannot wait for Grendel to give him his masculinity, but must instead take charge of his own destiny and forge an adult identity for himself. He therefore repairs the mighty sword and achieves the first of his two Oedipal goals, chopping Grendel in two. He then discards the effeminate pink tunic he had worn under Grendel's care and dons alternate apparel to emphasize his newfound manhood. At this point in the proceedings, it may seem like Ator's quest for the mighty sword is actually over. However, the mighty sword of the title is not this literal sword, but instead the metaphorical sword of true manhood. In order to achieve it, Ator must resolve his Oedipus complex. He still has a long way to go. After overcoming a set of challenges to prove his new manhood, Ator achieves his second desire, Deianira. At this point in the story, she's still seen primarily as a mother figure, as shown by her care for him in this scene. In order to resolve his complex, Ator must first make peace with his real mother. He finds her working as a prostitute in this tavern.
Why do you humiliate yourself?
Because that is the punishment the gods have inflicted on me.
The gods punished her, because if she didn't want to be raped by a troll, she shouldn't have gone around being a woman. Ugh, what did she expect? She was practically begging for it. Ator's mother can only be free of this curse when her son ceases to see her as a sexual object.
When does this punishment end?
When a man looks at me not as a woman, but as a mother.
Once he has made this mental leap, she is able to find peace, and Ator takes another step towards true adulthood. Now that he has learned to see his mother as a mother, he must learn to see Deianira as something other than a mother. He must come to see her as desirable for what she is, rather than merely for what she represents. This step in the resolution of Ator's Oedipus complex is assisted by Princess Grimilda, who assumes Deianira's shape in order to... Wait a minute. Grimilda as Deianira is wearing blue, and earlier Grimilda's brother Gunther was spying on maids dressing Deianira in a blue gown. But when we next see the real Deianira, she's back in her old armor, which means this is a movie about sexual issues, I suppose. Anyway, so Grimilda teaches Ator about the true nature of sexual desire. Having accomplished this, she reveals herself, and upon seeing her face, Ator realizes that he does truly want Deianira. An image of her will not do, and his complex is finally resolved. Now, and only now, is he able to be truly heroic and take on the film's final villain, Gunther. While earlier Ator needed the mighty sword as a symbol of his virility, he is now comfortable enough with his sexuality to do without it. These two obstacles, still dependent on mere representations of manliness, are quickly defeated. Gunther's own masculinity is fragile, as demonstrated through his obsession with stone and statues. The film also further emphasizes that while Ator wants Deianira herself, Gunther will be happy with an image of her. Faced with the threat of someone who is truly an adult, there is little he can do to defend himself. When the credits roll, Ator's quest is still not quite complete. While he has dealt with the female side of his Oedipus complex, he has yet to confront the male in the form of his father and his father's killer, another troll named Thorn. Thorn is seen laughing over the end credits, so it is possible that Joe D'Amato intended to explore this aspect of his hero in a sequel. Considering the wealth of other mythological references in the movie, it is also possible that Ator would have had to fight Grendel's mother, rescue Deianira from a centaur, and ward off an evil witch who wished to eat his children. Sadly, Joe D'Amato died in 1999 with this sequel unmade, so we will never know.